The gate was already open when I pulled up that morning. Not broken, not forced, just open, like someone had a key and didn't bother shutting it behind them. That detail bothered me more than anything that came after, because only 3 people had keys to the rear access gate of the Whitmore Ranch property. Me, my property manager Louise, and the HOA management office. Louise was in Phoenix. I parked outside instead of driving through. Something in my gut told me not to. 18 years in federal investigations teaches you that when something feels off, before you can explain it, you slow down. So I sat there in my truck, engine off, and watched. Nothing moved. The Whitmore Ranch parcels weren't some hobby setup. 12 acres. Working horses. A hay lease agreement. A water easement that 3 neighboring lots depended on. I'd bought it 4 years earlier after my transfer to the regional field office. It was supposed to be quiet. The HOA, Ridge Point Estates, technically covered only the residential portion of the property, not the ranch land itself. That distinction had caused friction almost from the start. Her name was Connie Darst, vice president of the Ridge Point HOA board. She didn't shout. She didn't wave her arms. That's what made her different from what you'd expect. Connie was meticulous, patient, the kind of person who built a case slowly, document by document, until the walls were already closing in before you even realized they'd started moving. We exchanged a few emails before. A notice about fence visibility from the road. Nothing that felt like a real threat. I was wrong about that. I got out of the truck and walked through the open gate. What I found wasn't vandalism. It was a survey stake, brand new, marked with a bright orange flag, planted 12 feet inside my property line, near the water junction where the easement split, and next to it, a laminated notice in a clear sleeve, zip-tied to the stake. Notice of recorded encroachment. Ridge Point Estates HOA pursuant to CCNR Section 14.2b. I read it twice, then I took a photo. Then I stood there for a full 2 minutes in the silence of that morning, trying to process what I was actually looking at. They weren't claiming I had violated something. They were claiming the land. Specifically, the 12 feet between the actual boundary and where that stake now stood, saying it fell under common area jurisdiction due to an easement ambiguity they had apparently recorded with the county 3 weeks earlier. 3 weeks without notifying me. I called my property attorney that same afternoon. She pulled the county records while I was still on the phone. It was real. Connie's HOA had filed a quiet title-adjacent claim through a title company, an obscure process, rarely used, but legally valid if unchallenged within a certain window. The window was 45 days. 22 of them were already gone. I want to be clear about something. I've spent nearly 2 decades working federal investigations. I understand bureaucratic manipulation. I understand when someone is using a system as a weapon. And even then, I still felt a very specific kind of cold anger, one I had to consciously keep in check, because this wasn't a neighbor complaint. This was a coordinated legal move designed to quietly strip away a portion of my property while I wasn't paying attention. So I started paying attention. Over the next week, I documented everything, pulled the original survey from when I purchased the land, cross-referenced the easement language from 2019. My attorney filed a formal objection with the county and sent a cease and desist letter to the HOA management company. Standard first move. What I didn't do was confront Connie directly. That was intentional. When someone has already shown you they operate through systems instead of confrontation, you don't hand them a confrontation. You work the same way they do. Then her brother showed up. His name was Deputy Terrence Darst. I found that out later, when he pulled up to my gate on a Wednesday morning. He was in partial uniform, not on duty, I confirmed that, but driving his county sheriff's vehicle, badge visible on his belt. He had a printed letter with him, supposedly from the HOA property management company. It stated that, pending the title dispute, my rear gate keys were to be surrendered for custodial holding. He delivered it almost professionally, like he'd practiced. This is a voluntary compliance request, he said. The board just wants to preserve the status of the property during the dispute period. I looked at the letter, then at him. I still had my credentials in my jacket. I'd come straight from a morning briefing downtown, which wasn't typical. Most days, I dressed down at the property, But that morning I hadn't changed yet. I asked, "Are you here in an official capacity?" He said, "I'm here as a courtesy." I nodded. "Then I'll extend you the same courtesy. These keys don't leave my possession. If the HOA want a temporary injunction, they're welcome to pursue it through the court. The cease and desist my attorney filed 3 days ago is already on record, which your sister knows." His posture shifted the moment I said, "Your sister." He hadn't expected me to know. It showed. Real discomfort, not performance. He'd come here thinking he was dealing with a property owner who hadn't connected all the dots yet. I showed him my credentials, not aggressively, just placed them where he could see them. Open, he studied them for a long moment. "I'm not here to cause any problems," he said. "I understand," I replied, "and I'm not recording this conversation or reporting this interaction to your department. As long as we're clear that nothing changes hands today, and this doesn't happen again." He left, and I wish I could say that was the end of it, that Connie backed down, that the claim dissolved and the gate stayed locked under my keyring where it belonged. That's not what happened. She didn't send her brother again. She did something smarter. 2 weeks later, one of the neighboring lot owners connected to the water easement, a man named Petro, someone I'd had a perfectly cordial relationship with for 3 years, filed a separate complaint with the county water district. He cited disputed access authority over the shared junction. Connie had gotten to him. I don't know what she told him, whether she offered him something or pressured him into it, but his complaint created a secondary freeze on the easement usage, one my attorney said could take months to untangle, regardless of how the title dispute resolved. The cows still needed water. The hay lease still depended on that access route. And now there was a procedural cloud hanging over all of it. We won the title dispute. Eventually, 40 days later, the county rejected Ridgepoint's claim due to a defect in the original easement language they relied on. My attorney described it as a clear overreach that should never have gotten that far. But Petro's complaint is still pending. The water junction is technically accessible, but practically uncertain. Louise handles it carefully now, documenting every single use in case it becomes evidence later. Connie is still vice president of the Ridgepoint board. She sent me a cordial email 2 weeks after the title ruling. Something about upcoming paving work on the shared access lane, asking if I'd reviewed the new schedule. Completely normal tone. No acknowledgement of anything. I didn't respond. Over the years, I've interviewed people who operate the way she does. People who instinctively understand that the most durable kind of power doesn't announce itself. It just keeps finding a new door. I changed the gate lock 3 days after her brother showed up. New keys. New hardware. 2 copies. One with me, one with Louise. And now, every time I pull up, I check the gate before I drive in.